It's time for a video, Piper. What do you think? Are you ready to get crafted? Say hello. Here comes, oh, there's Yadi. Hi. Are you guys ready to get started? I am so happy that you guys are enjoying the thrift store flips because I just love going to the thrift store and the Goodwill, and I went again and gathered up some things to flip for you today. I'm starting out with an old crate, and it's very rustic and worn. When I set out to do these flips, I didn't know what direction I was really headed, but it became very clear in the process of making over this crate that I was heading into shabby chic territory, which I love, and I hope you guys like it too. So in order to get a shabby chic effect on this crate, I wanted to layer some paint on. So I started out with a dark brown, which is the truffle color of the Waverly chalk paint. And you can see that I'm not trying to cover every little speck of that crate. I'm just haphazardly brushing that paint on just wherever. And this time I did not paint the inside. The next step was to add another layer of color, and I went with Cameo Pink from Apple Barrel. And I did the same technique, just haphazardly brushing the paint on top of the brown paint after it's dry. I don't remember if I said that or not. I heated mine up with my hair dryer to dry it quicker, and then I put the pink on. After the pink was dry, then I did my final top coat of white Rust-Oleum chalk paint. And it's important that you want your top coat to be chalk paint because you're going to do some wet distressing so that the pink and the brown from underneath will show through. And I used the same painting style, just kind of all over and willy-nilly. If it starts looking like an iced oatmeal cookie, you know you're in the right direction. Adding the pink to the crate is only one step of shabby chicifying this crate. The next step is to add some paper, and this is some scrapbook paper that I found, I believe, at Michael's when it was on sale. I'm not sure if you all know what brand Michael's carries. It could have been Hobby Lobby, but I really think it's Michael's. Anyway, what we're going to do is tear strips of the scrapbook paper. It's important that you tear it instead of cutting it because you want the edges to be jagged and torn. And the scrapbook paper is not going to be the same length as each of the pieces of the wood crate, as you can see here, but it's going to be okay because the effect that we're going for is that this has been on this crate maybe to decorate it up for a girl's bedroom or something where she kept her toys in it. I don't know. And it's been worn off over the years. So it's going to look like it's peeled off of the crate. So it's not going to, we don't want it to be covering all the sides anyways. Then, as you saw, I got my Mod Podge out and I was using gloss, but I think you could use matte. It wouldn't matter. And I just smeared the Mod Podge on the back of the scrapbook paper and stuck the scrapbook paper to the sides of my crate. And after you get your scrapbook paper stuck down, do not worry about Mod Podging over the top like you normally would. Because the next step is to take a wet paper towel or a wet rag, and then you're going to dampen the paper. Actually, you're going to do more than dampen the paper. You're going to wet the paper. And this is going to cause it to start peeling and rolling up, and that's what you want. You want it to be significant enough that this looks worn and old, but not so much that you peel all of your print back off. So just play with it and have fun. I liked to go around the edges of the paper a lot so it didn't look so straight and like it peeled off in a straight edge. And also notice while I'm wetting this paper, it's also taking off some of that top coat of white paint like I was talking about before, exposing the pink paint underneath. And I should also mention that I didn't wait for the Mod Podge to dry at all. I stuck that scrapbook paper on and immediately started doing this wet rag technique. And it worked perfectly fine for me. The next step is to take it outside and spray it with a clear coat because you don't want any more of that paper to come off. You get it the way you want it to look and then you want to set it. After the clear coat is dry, then the next step is to take a lightweight sandpaper, I'm using 120 grit, and go over the whole thing. This kind of smooths out any roughness that paper might have because it was peeling up and you've clear coated over it. So it smooths it out. It also makes the whole piece look a little more worn and vintage. And that's it. I think she's the perfect thing to store old quilts in or decorate up for the end of your bed. Today, I want to share with you a product that's really given me a lot of peace of mind. I am one of the folks that when I leave the house and I get halfway to where I'm going, I'm wondering if I unplugged my curling iron or my straightening iron. I'm just so scared of a house fire. Well, this is the solution. It is a Vont smart plug. And this can be operated using the app on your phone. So even if you're away from your home, you can turn off whatever is plugged into this plug. The app is really easy to install on your phone. You just go to your app store and download it. And then it's easy to control that plug just using your phone. And you can even set up a schedule, a timer, or a vacation mode. So I never have to worry about burning my house down with a hot hair tool again. Another great use for the smart plug is to use it for things that have a switch, like this tart warmer. And the switch is behind my TV, my media cabinet, and it's kind of hard to pull it up and it's kind of aggravating. So I can control my tart warmer just using my phone and not having to dig back behind that cabinet to get the switch. The Vont company also sent me their smart light bulbs, which I installed in both of my living room lamps. They can be controlled by your phone. So instead of every night before I go to bed, I turn this one off and then I walk over here and I turn this one off. I can just, before I go to bed, open up the app on my phone, turn them both off and go to bed. I also like the idea that when I'm on vacation, I can schedule my lights to turn on at night so it looks like someone's home, or if I want lights on for my little kitty friends. And if you're the sort of person that likes a little ambiance with your lighting, they can also change colors, and here's a little look at what the summer setting looks like. So if you're like me and you like the extra peace of mind and you'd like to get one of these smart plugs or smart bulb, then you can use the link in my description box. It'll take you to the Vont Amazon store. You can use this coupon code at checkout for 10% off. Plus, right now, they are having a $6 coupon off all of their Vont products on Amazon. So it's a really good savings if you're wanting to try any of these products. Next up on the Shabby Chic thrift flips, I found this jar at the thrift store. I paid only $1 for it, and it kind of reminded me of a cloche. So then I began thinking what I could put inside. And what I came up with was I wanted there to be some old paper rolled up into little tubes. And at first I was going to print off some paper using my printer, but my printer was out of ink. So then I turned to my scrapbooking stash and I came across this old looking newspaper, scrapbook paper. So I cut a couple of pieces down to the size where they would fit inside of the jar, and then I rolled them up individually, secured them with Scotch tape, and then tied a jute string around them. Then I arranged them inside of the jar and started thinking up what else I could do to make this shabby chic. And my answer was air dry clay. I decided that I would make some little ornaments to hang off of this jar. So the first thing I did was roll it out with my rolling pin. Then I looked around for something in my kitchen that was the right size round shape I wanted for my little ornaments, which happened to be the top of this everything but the bagel seasoning jar. I really only needed one for my jar, but since I had the clay out and I was already at it, I went ahead and made as many as I could out of this little piece of air dry clay. The next thing I like to do is dip my fingers in a little bit of water and go around the edges to smooth them out, and I also go over the top to smooth out the top as well. There's lots of things you can do with air dry clay, but for these pieces, I was going to try to stamp them, and these are just some rubber stamps that I bought on clearance. I've had them for a while and I like them a lot, so let's give it a try. And I realized my mistake when I went to pull the stamp off of the clay. It was pretty much stuck. So what I realized I should have done was to dip the stamp in some cornstarch or put some cornstarch on the clay before I put my stamp into it. So I tried it again, and this time I had no problem getting the clay back off of the stamp. And then I used a different kind of stamp, and I remembered to use the cornstarch this time, so that one went without a hitch. And then I thought it would be fun to try to do some imprints with this fake lavender. And I'm not sure, but I think in the end I turn out liking this better than the stamps. I used a plastic straw to put holes at the top of my little ornaments so that I could thread them with twine. I had two more pieces I didn't know what I was going to do with, so I decided to do paw prints, and I got one of Piper's paw too, but I forgot to record that. It takes air dry clay a couple of days to dry out. I didn't have a couple of days. This is only after 24 hours. It's dry enough that you can handle and paint if you like, but it will continue to harden the longer it's out in the air. I did put them to dry on this paper plate that had cornstarch on it so they wouldn't stick to the paper plate. So now I'm just brushing that cornstarch off and getting them ready for painting. Starting with the one that I imprinted the lavender on, I got some purple paint, some green paint, and my teeny tiniest little brush. I dipped my brush in water first and then went into the purple paint to water it down quite a bit because I didn't want it its full strength brightness. So I watered it down, and then with that tiny little brush, I began painting in the lavender right into the little grooves, and it just was so satisfying. I loved painting this lavender. Same thing with the green paint. I just watered it down and painted the green leaves. And by the way, these are acrylic paints, just craft paint. They weren't watercolors or anything like that. So I kind of wonder how watercolor would do on the air dry clay. But anyway, that's what I did. For the I love you stamp, I just wanted the letters to be black. So I did the same thing. I watered down the black paint, and it was a little harder to work with, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't sure if it was going to turn out right or not, but in the end, I think it looks just fine. But I took the watered down black paint and just painted it all inside where the stamp was. And then I used a paper towel to lighten it up just a hair because it was too dark black. Then the first one I had stamped, I just painted with some watered down purple paint, and then I took the paper towel and I dabbed it back up to look a little not so bright and worn. Here's where I need your help. What should I do with the little cat paws? Should I turn them into magnets? Should I paint them? Should I do something else entirely? I'm just not sure. Let's hear your ideas. Leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think I should do with them. Well, as if these weren't shabby chic enough, I thought they needed some sort of crochet trim, which did come from the Dollar Tree. So you could just hang it like this, but I decided I wanted it to have a little ruffle. So I'm going to sew a little basting stitch around the edge of the crochet, and when you pull the thread tight, it will gather it up into a ruffle. And if you're not sure what a basting stitch is, it's just going in and out of the material, or in this case, this piece of lace or crochet, and you want to take large stitches. So there's no back stitching. They don't have to connect back to one another, just in and out in a line. And when you pull the end of the thread, you can see it will make gathers. When you have a piece big enough that will go around your ornament, then you can knot your thread and cut it, and then cut your crochet piece off the right size. Then all that's left to do is hot glue your pretty trim around the back side of the ornament. And when you're done, it'll look just as sweet as this. I tied it on my jar, but you could use these to embellish just about anything you like. I tied my I love you one around my white picture. This one is the easiest of the flips today. I found this sugar and creamer set at Goodwill for just a buck each, a little over a buck each. And so I cleaned them up real good, and all I'm going to do is use my stamps on them. I'm going to put a monogram for my last name, and I'm just using some stamps that I had purchased at, I'm not sure if it was Hobby Lobby or Michael's. It's been a while ago. So I'm using regular stamps, regular ink, and just very carefully putting that G on each one. I'm really not sure if this ink would hold up to dish soap or a dishwasher, but I don't plan to use them for actual sugar and creamer set. I'm just going to use them for decoration. In the next Shabby Chic thrift flip, it's another creamer that I don't have the sugar bowl, just the creamer, and I just loved the flowers on it. And since it's a loner, I'm going to try to do something totally different with this one and turn it into a pin cushion, but not just a regular pin cushion. I want the pin cushion part to be able to come off so that you can put stuff inside like a needle and thread. And the way I thought I would accomplish this is by using floral foam and cut it down to a dome shape that would just fit snugly down inside of the creamer set. And then once I have my shape of the foam right, then I'm going to cover it with a little bit of batting or cotton, which I stole from an old pillow. And then I'm going to cover it with some really cute material that was a pillowcase that I got at the Goodwill for only a couple bucks. I cut the piece of material just large enough that it would go around to the bottom of the pincushion, and then I hot glued it all down in place on the bottom. Next, I wanted to make something that would attach to the pincushion so that it could be easily lifted out of the creamer jar so that you could put stuff inside. So I had this ribbon that matched pretty well, and all I did was double it up so that there would be a small loop hanging out on each side of the pincushion, and I hot glued it to the bottom. This worked really great, but there was only one little problem that was bugging me. The bottom of it didn't look very pretty. So I decided to make a ribbon rose and hot glue that to the bottom to disguise the ugliness. Now, if you've ever made a ribbon rose before, please tell me how you did it because I have made some ribbon roses before out of wider ribbon, and it's a lot easier the wider ribbon you have. But this was a smaller, narrower piece of satin ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and so I just kind of had to wing it. I wish I could tell you how I did it, but I really don't know. I started out rolling it up like a little rosebud, and I hot glued it, and then I just kind of started twisting and gluing and twisting and gluing. As long as I saw that it looked like it was making petals, there was no rhyme or reason to it. So I'm sorry I don't have clear instructions on how to do that, but it's something I need to learn for myself too. Now you can store some thread and your needles and the little thing that helps you get the thread through the needle and a seam ripper all inside your little creamer jar right under your pin cushion, and you can get to it whenever you need to sew something. Now let's look back at all our shabby chic thrift flips today. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you all have a blessed weekend. If you want to see more thrift flip fun, click the link that I've provided for you right here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.